So, Starbucks is having a massive run today. Why is this? Well, turns out Laxman's out and they went ahead and they stole Chipotle's CEO. Kind of a gangster move, if you ask me. Well done, Starbucks. So, the stock has jumped north of 20% on this news, which to me means that the share price dropped from low 90s into the mid 70s. The market is mostly blaming Laxman for that. Not the macro, not China, but Laxman. Now, I don't know if I really agree with that. I don't think the bear case just comes down to Laxman, but they replaced him with a CEO that achieved much better results, we'll say, in terms of share price for the business that he ran. So this wave of enthusiasm makes sense. Now, with regards to Laxman, well, I guess you could say he needs to do a better job of communicating value. So on the valuation metrics, obviously the multiples have all gone up. Price of poker is going up. So we're at a PE level that's like close to McDonald's level. Do they have the same resilience as McDonald's? A lot of people are arguing not, at least on the discussions I've been a part of on this stock. Now, you could also counter that with, but Starbucks probably has a little bit more growth ahead of it. They still have markets out there, untapped markets to penetrate, so to speak. Now, here's the thing. The market tends to move towards the shiny object. So here we have new CEO, shiny object, buy. And suddenly now, things you were hearing before, what about China? The weak consumer in China has been a story. Bearishness on China overall. Geopolitical stuff that's been shouted from the rooftops on a lot of China-related and China-adjacent businesses. You're not hearing that anymore. You're not hearing, but what about the unions anymore? And that's a big difference, by the way, I think, between Starbucks and McDonald's, right? Starbucks, since the stores are corporate owned, they don't have a franchisee model for their business. What you have is the risk with things like unions or weak consumer in certain markets, etc. A lot of that cost is just, that risk is sort of just borne by Starbucks itself, corporate, and the shareholders. Where with McDonald's, what you have is a lot of that risk of either unionization or minimum wage increases in California, for example. Well, a lot of those risks are, heavily burdening the individual franchisee. McDonald's business model basically is built so that they can squeeze the franchisee on all kind of like the downside risk while just collecting their royalties and their rent and everything. Now, on the flip side of that, what's McDonald's going to do if they can't, if a lot of the franchises close because of those issues? That a closed franchise doesn't pay royalties, I don't think. So that's rough. Whereas Starbucks can maybe potentially tackle some of those problems at scale, potentially. There might be some advantage there. I don't know. But suffice it to say that, Starbucks probably has a little bit more growth ahead and new enthusiasm with a new CEO who may have a new vision for that growth, by the way. So I doubt that we'll get a plan like right this second, but certainly I think they'll try to set a tone at the next quarterly. And there might be a press release somewhere between now and then with maybe a few bullet points of the direction he wants to go. Maybe a little bit of stuff to kind of drum up the enthusiasm, sell the match, sell the hype. But it's probably not all hype. This probably is better talent at the helm nowadays. I mean, the results, I think, with Chipotle do speak for themselves. I don't follow it closely, but I have seen how much they've grown and how much they've rewarded shareholders. So for my friends who got into Starbucks and decided to load their boats when it was in the 70s here, congrats on the W. Like, looks like you made a good call, and it's starting to pay off really quickly for you. You didn't have to wait long for this one. So sometimes you have to be patient, but sometimes it just pays to be right at the right time. So I am going to make a little bit of a prediction. It's not really a bold prediction at all, but I do think we're going to see these targets start to get adjusted upward by a lot of analysts soon. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if this went from buy to strong buy in a lot of cases. I don't think you're going to see low price targets for 12 months in the 80s anymore. So is this just a function of the market hating Laxman, or is it a combo of they hate Laxman and they love Brian Niccol and the market moves towards the shiny object? I think it is definitely a combination of the two. Laxman kind of, he got embarrassed by Jim Cramer, and you don't want to get embarrassed by Jim Cramer. It's not a good look. The whole communicating value thing, which, I clowned on a little bit earlier, was definitely a bit of a gaffe. Was he absolutely terrible at running the company? Probably not, to be honest. I mean, everybody was happy with him, at least that I talked to, in terms of, I talked to and know multiple Starbucks shareholders. Nobody was really unhappy with him until they had one bad quarter and a really, really, really tone-deaf interview with Jim Cramer. Those were the things that turned people kind of against him. Before that, they were perfectly fine when it was business as usual. So I guess that just goes to show that as a CEO in a public company, you're really only as good as your most recent earnings release. So that's kind of just a short-term mindset that people have. But ultimately, if they have somebody with a better vision of the future who can get more enthusiasm back into the stock, etc., they did sort of do their job. They drove value for shareholders. They rewarded shareholders who stuck with the company and now have a higher share price to show for it. I just hope that whatever the business plan is makes the fundamentals support this rise in share price, so that it's not just a thing where there was all this enthusiasm and then the next earnings is kind of, mad. Well, they might forgive the next earnings being mad. They'll say that, well, he's only had one quarter. But certainly if they don't start to see the business also reflect their expectations soon, the air could get let out of this balloon at some point. And I hope that doesn't happen, because honestly, I'm rooting for a lot of the people who got into Starbucks heavily at 75. And yeah, I just hope that it pays off more than just this short-term jump for them. But as you say, it's hard to call the future with any degree of certainty. So I want to thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you would do me the big favor of liking it for the algorithm, subscribing to help me hit 3K subscribers in record time, join my Discord, link in the description, where we discuss stocks on a daily basis. Also, catch me every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Cash Flow Kings Live. And most importantly, I'm going to reward you with the most muscular and ask you to please join me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Mr. Macho Mog. Link is in the description. Trying to get my first 500 followers there. Peace out. Appreciate you.